got started in restoration by working on military vehicles. Everything from M38 Jeeps. It's always a first-time start, this thing, up to Sherman tanks. And when I met Janice, she looked at me and said, why don't you restore something somebody wants? Lately, I've been sort of missing military vehicles. So, you know, to scratch the itch, I bought this toy tank. So I put it together, which took way more time than I was prepared for. And I got all the batteries charged, and I've been using it. This is just not as satisfying as the real thing. So I think I'm due for a trip to go and play with some, well, real military toys. Today, I thought, I'm gonna make a phone call and see if I can go make a visit to somewhere I've always wanted to see. Oh.
Welcome to the museum, David.
Wow. I was actually rendered almost speechless because as the door opened, it revealed this huge panorama of hundreds of thousands of tons of cool tanks. I'm not often speechless, but this has done it. This is huge. So here I am at the Ontario Regiment Museum, completely surrounded by cool stuff. I mean, look at it. It's just so cool. There's a German tank, man. Well, this is absolutely amazing.
And what you see here, Dave, is less than half of the museum's collection.
Was that right? I mean, this is just impressive.
The museum was founded in 1980 as a ceremonial troop for the Ontario Regiment. And over 40 years, with just volunteers, no staff, this amazing collection has grown. And it's always been about honoring the memory of those who served and continue to serve on these vehicles and telling their stories. Now, this is Canada's largest operational collection of military vehicles.
Yeah, all operational. Yeah. One of the most interesting aspects of all of these World War II vehicles is that they were all basically made by car manufacturers who repurposed their assembly lines for war production. The changeover was very sudden and very dramatic when the industry of Canada and the industry of the United States went from making civilian items to all of a sudden retooling and producing huge volumes of military equipment. Canada and the United States were both basically the arsenal of the Allied forces during the Second World War. Well, the enemy couldn't reach us, so we could just concentrate on production. General Motors was busy making tanks and other war materials. Chrysler was making engines for them. Rolls-Royce was making aircraft engines. Ford was involved in making bombers. These companies produced volumes of materials that had never been seen before. This was all in an effort to supply the troops with all of the materials that they would need exactly when they needed them.
This is Dan, our operations manager here at the museum.
Good day.
Good day. Jeremy introduced me to Dan Aker, who's the operations manager and an old military armored officer. He's gonna give me the stories because, boy, there's lots of stories here. This is, what, a general's vehicle or something, judging by the...
It was one of 4 ceremonial vehicles.
There's a little M38A1 that took my attention because I have restored quite a few of them, owned a couple, but this one was a little different.
This one was actually used by Her Royal Highness, Queen Elizabeth. There was a tattoo during the CNE in Toronto, and they had a number of regiments that were lined up. She'd be up here, giving the salute.
You're looking very
return.
royal.
Well, thank you very much. I have aspirations.
You know, it had red shag carpet, which is sort of unusual, and chrome, and shiny green paint. It turns out it's a fairly important vehicle.
Yeah, well, it's a product of its time.
There was a lot of small companies that had great ideas, and a brilliant example of that is the Bantam Car Company. They made these tiny little cars, almost like clown cars, that were not very successful before the war. But when the word went out that they needed an efficient off-road vehicle for the military, these guys came up with the Jeep. The unfortunate thing for Bantam was they didn't have the production capacity to create the Jeep. So the government turned around and said, Ford, you can do it. Willys, you can do it. Oh, and Bantam, you can make Jeep trailers. So that's what they ended up, they invented the Jeep, they ended up making the trailers for the Jeep, and Ford and Willys ended up making the Jeeps. Today, you can see the great-grandchildren of those Jeeps still driving along the road.
So the 66 Chevelle came in for some upgrades on the front brakes. It came in for an upgraded transmission, get rid of the 4-speed, put a 5-speed in. And this was passed from father to daughter. They want to pay tribute to him, get the car running, driving, working well.
Well, the client didn't like the gearing in the car, didn't like the way it revved on the highway. So we put a 5-speed overdrive in it to keep the RPM down on the highway. You can see how much clearance I have there. Oh, we had an issue with the bell housing. The one that originally was on the car is not correct. It's actually from a truck. It was bolted on. It was bolted on. Like the bolts holes were still the same for the transmission, still lines up, but it was just, I don't know, the tolerances wasn't right. Something was wrong for sure. I have no idea why they would put a truck bell housing on the car. Maybe that's all they had. I have no idea. But it's not right, so we're gonna make it right. So we got the proper parts. We'll work a lot better now. It would have ruined that new transmission real quick if we left it like that. Here we go. Let's get this bad boy up in there. Ready to go. I have the transmission on transmission jack and up in position where I'm going to slide the transmission in through the clutch and into the bell housing. Just getting the spline lined up and the clutch disc lined up. I have a dummy shaft which aligned the clutch disc up, but it's a plastic piece and it's not accurate. So the shaft that they use, here, let me get it. The piece that comes with the clutch kit is just a piece of plastic. So there's the splines. This is where I'm trying to get the splines, and that's where I'm having trouble. This is hitting. It's not going in perfectly. What I'll have to try to do is actually disengage the clutch. It'll move the spline a little bit. Can you hold this tension on this bar? I've got the clutch engaged. Gotcha. That's this thing, so.
There she is. Right in there.
Pops goes the weasel.
That's what I was trying to do there. So we disengaged the clutch. Same as being in the car and pushing the clutch pedal to the floor. And that allowed the clutch disc to move that fraction of an inch and line up, and pop, in it went. And it's in.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, look at that.
Transmission's up and in. Now we're measuring for drive shaft. He's able to reuse the factory cross member in it.
Oh, beautiful.
See, there's the difference between those two transmissions.
Yeah, that one's nice.
So, yeah, he's come right along with it. I mean, if we had the drive shaft, he'd be driving it today.
All right, let's see if she's got any power here. See how it goes. Woo! Here, that should just slip right in there. Here we go. No, okay, that's it. It's not going in. Something. Okay. So I'm installing the new drive shaft in the 66 Chevelle SS 396. Here, that should just slip right in there. Here we go. No, okay, that's it. It's not going in. Something's. Turns out that the drive shaft we have is too long for the new 5-speed transmission, so I'm getting talon to shorten it so it'll fit properly. Here we go, in here like this.
You betcha, that's the idea. What'd you figure, 57?
56 3/4.
Okay, we'll just see how long it is now and then see how much we gotta shorten it.
Okay, yeah.
So we're 59, 60, and an eighth. Who's good at math?
56 3/4. I got a calculator.
57 3/4.
56 3/4.
We got 60 and an eighth.
16 1/8?
Yeah.
16 1/8.
That's gonna be 60 and this is 6 eighths.
3 5/8.
3 5/8?
4 5/8.
I'll go over the math and just
Yeah.
measure the out.
Yeah, okay. Good luck. Have fun.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Okay, man. Thank you.
Yeah, good thing Ron's here to help with my fractions mathematication.
This is like another old friend. I've worked on quite a few. This is a Chev, right?
This is a Chev. And right over there is the Ford
You got
V8.
a Ford.
The Brits were saying, what can you contribute to this upcoming war? And since Canada had one of the most advanced automotive industries, they said, let's design a truck.
Yeah. A lion's share of trucks used during the Second World War were called CMPs, and that stood for Canadian Military Pattern. These trucks were produced in vast numbers, and they were just the general do-everything vehicles. They towed artillery pieces, they carried supplies, they became ambulances. It has a different face, and a lot of the Fords were exactly the same as this, weren't they?
They're very similar,
Yeah.
but there's a massive commonality in parts because
These vehicles were designed to be manufactured by various companies, and in such a way that the parts for one manufacturer's truck would fit on another's.
But I just love the luxury that they put in making these vehicles. Like, hey, who needs a door handle, right? It's
Well, simple and stupid. Right?
Simple
and
and
you can make
stupid.
lots of them quickly. I mean, everything from the door handles to the body shells themselves were very simply done. And that was to ensure that almost anybody could service these trucks when they required it.
They, of course, were Commonwealth, so the driver has to sit on the wrong side.
Yeah, of course.
Now, this is a 1938 Pontiac coach we're going to be taking on a test drive this morning to make sure it's all up to par and going good. We redid all the wiring in the car. It came in, the guy, I think, just bought it, and it burnt up. There's about 3 feet of section of wiring under the dashboard. It was all melted in one big clump together. So I ripped all the old wiring out of the car and rewired it completely. So it's all good and safe now. It's not going to catch fire and burn to the ground. Ready for the road. Yeah, this thing runs pretty good. Not bad at all. All right, let's see if she's got any power here. Let's give it a little gas, see how it goes. Woo! Feels good, this car. I like it. Yeah, it's got good power for this 327. Big car like this, it picks up and goes good. Drives like a hot rod. It feels like a hot rod. You know, these old cars, when they're updated, they're not sports cars by any means, but way more power than the original 6-cylinder would have had. This engine now, this 327, is rated at 275 horsepower. And the original engine, I don't know, maybe 60 horsepower, I'm guessing, but not much. Everything's working, charging system's up, 14 volts, oil pressure's good. Seems like you could drive this thing forever. It's a good cruiser, good for going to the cruise nights and ice cream with the kids. Like, it's not bad. You could drive this thing across the country if you wanted to. The car runs great. What we've done so far, the wiring and everything, is spot on, it's perfect.
Put this back in the lathe and cut my 3 3/8 inches off. I'm just gonna sand this edge a little bit. But you gotta use different discs when you're working with steel. I've been working with aluminum all day, so you can't cross-contaminate. I'm gonna clean that up actually as well before we stuff her on there. Now's a good time to toss some marbles in there if you're pulling a prank on your friend.
Oh, you've already cut it?
Yeah. What were you looking for?
56 3/4.
Bang on.
Perfect.
I'm just gonna watch it spin just to make sure it's really straight before we weld it. Just by eye, you can usually tell if something's out of whack. You can use the blade on the lathe to actually watch for any differences as it goes around. That baby's good to go. Ronnie's good to go. Brand new drive shaft. Hey, Ronnie,
Oh, yeah, you got her?
hot off the press.
All right,
How's right here on your bench? Right on.
perfect, thanks, Alan.
His nickname was Beast, so they want a little tribute, almost like a ghost flame, but we put Beast underneath the paint.
That's a little intimidating. Crap.
So Talon has the drive shaft finished for the Chevelle. It fits perfectly, and now we have a special custom request for it. The 66 Chevelle, this was passed from father to daughter, and unfortunately, the gentleman passed away. He had 2 cars, 2 daughters, so 1 car went to each daughter. His nickname was Beast, so they want a little tribute.
Customer wanted the beast on the front fender of the car. They just wanted it on there like a subtle pearl so you can really notice it. Only they can really see it.
Almost like a ghost flame, but we put beast underneath the paint. And, you know, this car is gonna look awesome.
All right, Dave, we're going to let you take our Ferret Scout car for a little bit of spin.
I've been asked if I'd like to take the Ferret armored car out, and of course I would. I drove them a long time ago, but I think I need a briefing before I jump back in and start off again, and something that weighs this much.
That's your pedal, brake,
So,
gas.
the Ferret seems easy, but you've got to overcome your usual responses from driving it.
Okay, so make sure you're stepping on the brake when you select the gear.
Uh-huh.
Put into second.
You pre-select the gear, you put it into second, then you push down on what would be a clutch pedal, but just briefly, and then it engages the gear, and then you just leave that alone.
You're clear.
Brake off.
On and off the selector.
All right.
And you can use the gas.
It's quick, it's pretty responsive. I mean, we're not talking sports car quick here, but it is fast enough, especially if you're willing to abuse it a little. I think I need one of these.
And they're small enough you can actually drive them in the city.
I know, you can just take this to the cruise night. The Ferret was a scout car, and it was basically made for reconnaissance. They were the things that sort of poked their noses through the bushes to see what the enemy was doing. It was very quick compared to other light armored vehicles, and it was quick forward and just as quick backwards. That's a little intimidating. Crap.
Time to go.
We just said we're gonna do it, and we're gonna keep it, and we're gonna drive it, and we're gonna love it, and it'll be a tribute to Dad.
All righty, Commander, I'm waiting for your orders.
I'll fire her up and let's go.
So this was our dad's 1966 Chevelle. He's had our whole life. Our dad was interested in cars from as far back as we can remember. He's had a few different cars. And we always called the Camaro Tracy's car, and the Chevelle was always my car. So we'd say, let's take Tracy's car, let's take Sarah's car.
But I always got the front seat.
Yeah, she always got the front seat. I always got the back.
front seat, yeah.
Here's a picture of our dad in front of the Chevelle.
Dad was the guy that wore the watch backward, the belt on the side, the long hair, the Lee jeans, the white running shoes. He was the greatest person.
He was.
Like,
yeah. He didn't have any worries about anything in life. We've been hemming and hawing for a long time what to do with this car, and after sitting on it for 7 years, we just said we either have to sell it or fix it, and it was a clear answer. We got Guild Garage to add his nickname for a tribute to our dad, which was Beast.
with the nickname Beast, my dad was a rotten child, as Grandma would say. He had a little bit of a temper. You could hear him coming home from work in the Chevelle, like 3 blocks away. He would just be screaming and be like, "Dad's home!"
Yeah, we knew you could hear him coming down the road.
Absolutely,
yeah,
always.
Loved it.
This is Dad. This is all we have left of Dad.
Yeah.
Like it's
The smile, the everything.
It's everything.
You've had a ride in a small armored vehicle. How'd you like to go for a ride in a real armored vehicle?
You're gonna take me out in that?
I am.
Can I be the commander?
You can be the commander.
Oh, I'm coming. Oh, I'll be there in half an hour, so I gotta get out of this one. Pants are caught on the seat. You know, I used to get in and out of tanks a lot easier, or at least it seemed a lot easier than it does now. I did that without breaking anything. And up we come.
Treat it like a jungle gym.
There we go. Not quite as limber, but I still managed. Nothing was gonna keep me out.
All righty, Commander, I'm waiting for your orders.
I'll fire her up and let's go. Tanks are not noted for their speed or their handling abilities, but the Chaffee is an exception to that. It was made to be fast and it was made to be nimble. The reason was it was made for reconnaissance. The Chaffee was blazingly fast for a tank, and that gave it abilities that a lot of other tanks didn't have, simply because it could run up, shoot at somebody, and then get the hell out of Dodge.
Since Dave was the commander and I was driving, my job, according to him, was to drive fast. He didn't want to go slow, and he wanted to go fast with the tank. He told me to drift the tank, which I don't want to do.
And when he's hitting the corners, he's giving her, and the mud's flying, and I have a little on me. Not as much as he wanted, mind you. I got my start restoring military vehicles, but I was never under the kind of constraints that these guys in this museum are. I mean, these restorations are absolutely beautiful and historically perfect. The cars that exist today benefited from technologies and production techniques developed in the 1940s. And so that car you're driving today is a great, 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 great grandson or granddaughter of those that went before.